Radical.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Radical Rapid Fire Comment Response for March the 1st through March the 7th, 2021. Short comments, quick replies. Gears. What about his horse jokes? What's up with that? Talking about Review Tech USA. I guess it's a running thing where he drops jokes about horses and implies maybe horse sex. I don't think it's anything but maybe like a side story, something to keep people talking. Kind of like, what was that one guy? Was it Fred, he said? Some guy that was stalking him, which I think was probably a made-up story. You know, I don't put it past him to make things up. I think if he really wants to, he can commit to it. You know, change the theme of the channel, maybe review Horse Dick USA. Horse Dicks USA, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he will. My guess is probably not, because I think that's too far of a departure from reviewing tech. I mean, he's departed from reviewing tech already, but, you know, reviewing horse dicks, I don't know if his fans would actually, well, some of them are kind of weird. Maybe they would like that. Heavy Metal Gamer Show. I always call him Razor Fist brother if his mom and dad were brother and sister. Talking about Styx Hexenhammer 666. You know, I think with your comment here, this might be offensive to some people that reside in rural areas. Okay, I want to make it clear. I don't want to offend you all. I'm all inclusive here. There's nothing wrong with, you know, mommies and daddies being brothers and sisters and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm all for strong families and families loving each other. Moon Knight 1985. That end song, don't play it out loud. You're talking about the harmless SNES game Balls. I don't see if there's anything offensive about that. It's a perfectly fine G-rated song I often play from the game Balls. It's a Super NES game, 16-bit, you know, perfectly harmless. Perry Clags reminds me of the Twilight Zone episode where a group of thieves freeze themselves after stealing tons of gold, thinking that by going to the future, they will be super rich after coming out of their slumber. But after waking up in the future, the gold was worthless. You never know what's going to happen in the future, you know? A lot of these game collectors right now collecting these NES games. You know, I'm not saying that these rare NES games or the Nintendo World Championship carts will be utterly worthless in the future, but you have to kind of wonder. I mean, you're playing a stock market here. You're holding on to these things, and when it comes to video games that are easily replicated and reproduced for the most part, now the deal with the NWC cart, you got to wonder if, you know, some people are holding on to this stuff and it'll be the same. It comes down to greed, I think. I mean, there's a bit of collecting that comes down to greed, essentially, right? Because a lot of people just collect for greedy purposes. They think, whoa, you know, I collect all this stuff. One day it's going to be worth 10, 20, 30 times what it is. Oftentimes, it's usually actually not the case. Pirate Canvas. If someone you love died, yet you could replicate a human being from the same body parts as your loved one, would that replace that loved one? It's nothing to do with this video, just a curious question. Well, I mean, you can't replicate a soul. You know, it's just a shell. It's just a shell. It's not like a machine you could replicate. That's what makes human beings. That's what makes, you know, even pets. That's what makes us special. You know, someone can clone somebody even. But if you make a perfect clone of someone, it's just kind of a shell. It just reminds you of that person. You know, it's, you know, unless you can actually replicate the experiences, and even if you can replicate the memories, it's just, I don't know. That would make for a great sci-fi movie. Gnark, Iller 420. Pat just doesn't want his copy to be devalued since he invested a lot of money for his, but doesn't want others to get into the hobby getting games for investment purposes. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, he doesn't want other people to get into the hobby. That's why we often call people like Pat the gatekeepers of, you know, collecting the hobby, right? He really is against perfect replications of what he has. He's my precious. He's against that, and he calls it evil, but he's kind of telling on himself. I don't think he would say that's evil if he didn't actually have these NWC carts. That's what he's really worried about, okay? The Winged Avenger. Rick, maybe you should do what Mike Matei does. Instead of merely saying things to your audience, you could release statements. Or better yet, you could issue statements. That sounds even more corporate. Yeah, I just didn't understand it. I mean, these are YouTubers with YouTube channels. But now they're issuing statements. They're issuing press releases. Oh, press releases. Mike Matei. Such a fancy guy, Such a fancy guy playing your NES games, issuing press releases and statements. It's just I wonder what his fans actually think about that. You stop by a YouTube channel, you want to ask him a question, you want to talk to him, and you don't really understand, oh wait, he's all corporate now. G184. If it was me writing the script for the movie, I would have took a Wayne's World style approach, talking about the AVGN movie, starting off in the grounded YouTube surrounding, with huge corporate types catching on to the hype and taking over basically everything, ripping the heart out of it, and James trying to take it back. I would also have used his name and not have him called the Nerd throughout the movie. Yeah, again, I didn't watch the movie. I'm not going to pay actual money to watch that movie. So let me get it straight. They e-bagged and got money for the movie, yet what's it going for? Are they expecting $20, $30 for that disc? That's just hilarious to me. Like, you beg up money to make the movie, and then you're charging for it extra on top of that. I just don't know. So I'm not going to buy it. But from what I did see of it on the Nostalgia Critic recap, yeah, that's a much better idea, is, a Wayne's World type approach. But they went like the opposite direction, and they had him basically worshipped, and the idea was, hey, you know what, if he plays even a bad game, that's why it looks like to me like just a fucking vanity project. When most of the world is like, who the fuck is the angry video game nerd? It's weird because a lot of these people just have these such high opinions of themselves. And maybe I'll stop it there. Radical rapid fire. Rewind video. That last bit with the alarm clock made me choke on my lunch, laughing my ass off. That was funny as hell. Well, here at Radical Rick, it is not my intention for people to choke to death while listening to my uploads. Okay, it's not my intention. So I want to put that out there. I'll have official press release later. Okay, because there's other reports where people are, choking really bad after laughing, listening to my uploads. Tim Gormley. I don't think I will ever be able to bring myself to watch that movie. And you put the movie in quotations. Yeah, I saw more than enough of it on Nostalgia Critic, the recap, There's somebody that came by and they said, you know what? I tried watching the movie 3 times and it just didn't work. I'm like, that's how bad it is when you like the Angry Nerd and you like that channel and you're trying to watch a movie and it doesn't work because you're so fucking disgusted. Did anyone, after they made the movie, did they even watch it themselves? I wonder. Ben Kaiser. Mike Matei is an unpleasant racist who thinks he's God's gift to the NES. He and James were in the right place at the right time for success. If they started out now, they would have been lost in the fray of hundreds of other YouTube channels. Yeah, it's the case with a lot of those legacy channels. A lot of these channels, people will point to, that's a huge channel. Well, what if they start out right now? Like right now on YouTube? Silver Music Box. The Mike angry alarm clock noise had me dying. Oh, again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know what I can really do here. Before you listen to Radical Rick uploads, make sure you're not eating, or at the very least, have some water nearby. Okay? Speaking of that, Beyond Ghost. Ironically, so many people who graduate from film school have very little talent, imagination, or creativity. They just learn the fundamentals. Well, the fundamentals are important. They're very important, regardless of what you're schooling in. The fundamentals are important. But what separates the great directors, the great creators, the great basketball, football players, what separates them is something special. You got to have something special. And not everybody has something special. Okay? You can have all the fancy schooling in the world, but it comes down to really what you're going to put in and add to it, to the formula of success. Mark Smith. Appreciate your thoughts on politics. Political YouTubers recently, whatever side of the political spectrum they lean on, it's really obvious when they quickly 180 or shift their narrative to pander to the consensus. Well, it always happens. You have somebody, and not just like political YouTubers specifically, but actual politicians, which I think why is, for the most part, politics is a joke. So political grifters like the Quartering and Stick Sex and Hammer 666, those grifters are a joke, because whenever something comes up that's a little bit too, they don't want to cover it, they'll go with general consensus. They're not brave enough to actually stand out and do something that might get in the way of whatever audience they've tried to build. You know what I'm saying? And just when it comes to, actual politicians, why that's a joke is, how many times do you catch a politician saying the exact opposite because maybe they don't want to offend someone in their own party, or maybe they have a certain nominee, and it could be a certain nominee for a party that they were 100% against. But guess what? Magically, a couple months later, they're pandering for and completely for that. It's just a joke. Politics is a joke. And as an extension, political grifting YouTubers, to me, is a joke. Retroversk. I can't believe how unfunny it was. The idea of a 90-minute long rant on ET2600 like a Red Letter Media review could have been hilarious, but it's just a James Rolfe vanity project. Like, how is he a social outcast, wage slave, nerd, and simultaneously everyone on Earth wants to bow down and kiss his ass and tell him how great he is? Seems like he should be making a fortune from his videos in the fiction of the movie, and he wouldn't need to work at a GameStop. It's exactly, whoever wrote the plot, they must have been on drugs. Like, how can someone be so famous to where if they mention, oh, my head hurts actually thinking about the plot. If they mention a game like E.T., then the sales would go through the roof. Yet he's working at a game store. I don't know. I just don't know, right? Vic Viper. The AVGN movie should have been about two jackasses sitting on a couch talking about and sharing their feelings towards playing shitty games and what to do with game developers like LGN and stuff like that. Then after that, here come the copycats. Does the Game Chasers movie ring a bell? I don't know if you're talking about maybe how the movie could be about copycats. That'd be an interesting concept, right? Make the AVGN movie and then have it be about a lot of the copycats that came after that. And, that would maybe possibly be interesting. But if you want to make a good YouTube movie, and I've said it before, it has to be a extension that builds upon the channel. The AVGN channel just really doesn't lend itself that well to an actual, movie. A Darkened Sky. See, I thought that was something different, but it's just a Darkened Sky. I'm just waiting for the I didn't really want to make this video crying all while plugging his subscribe star. Guys, I didn't really want to make this video. Is that how it would go, right? He's had a lot of videos like that. I just don't buy it, though. I just don't buy it, Jeremy. I think you do want to make a lot of those videos. I think you do, especially when you fucking e-bag during them.